12 years before our former slave masters permitted us to join the Christian faith. Listen to what he said. He said, quote, "In my bag, I have a foolproof method of controlling black slaves. I guarantee every one of you, if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and I make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes." I want you to listen. What are those three things? Fear, envy, distrust. For what purpose? Control. To control who? The slave. Who is the slave? Us. Listen. He said, "These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and they will work throughout the South." Now, take this simple little list and think about it. On the top of my list is age, but it's only there because it starts with an A, and the second is color or shade. There's intelligence, sex, size of plantation, status of plantation, attitude of owners, whether the slaves live in the valley or on a hill, north, east, south, or west, have fine hair or coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action. But before that, I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy is stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. The black slave, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry it on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years. Now don't forget, you must pitch the old black male against the young black male, and the young black male against the old black male. You must use the female against the male, and you must use the male against the female. You must use the dark-skinned slave against the light-skinned slave, and the light-skinned slave against the dark-skinned slave. You must also have your white servants and overseers distrust all blacks, but it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. Gentlemen, these keys are your keys to control. Use them. Never miss an opportunity. And if used intensely for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful. Thank you, gentlemen. End of quote. So spoke Willie Lynch 283 years ago. And so as a consequence, we as a people now have been fractured, divided, and destroyed, filled with fear, distrust, and envy. Therefore, because of fear, envy, and distrust of one another, many of us as leaders, teachers, educators, pastors, and persons are still under the control mechanism of our former slave masters and their children. And now, in spite of all that division, in spite of all that divisiveness, we responded to a call. And look at what is present here today. We have here those brothers with means and those who have no means, those who are light and those who are dark, those who are educated, those who are uneducated, those who are business people, those who don't know anything about business, those who are young, those who are old, those who are scientific, those those who know nothing of science, those who are religious and those who are irreligious, those who are Christian, those who are Muslim, those who are Baptist, those who are Methodist, those who are Episcopalian, those of traditional African religion. We got them all here today.
Go ahead, brother.
And why did we come? We came because we want to move perfect union. And if you notice, the press triggered every one of those divisions. You shouldn't come, you're a Christian, that's a Muslim thing. You shouldn't come, you're too intelligent to follow hate. You shouldn't come. Look at what they did. They excluded women, you see. They played all the cards. They pulled all the strings. Oh, but you better look again, Willie. There's a new black man in America today. A new black woman in America today. Now, brothers, there's a social benefit of our gathering here today, and that is that from this day forward, we can never again see ourselves through the narrow eyes of the limitation of the boundaries of our own fraternal, civic, political, religious, street organization, or professional organization. We are forced.
Greetings, listeners. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is but one God. Welcome to the Black Agenda here on the Street 919 FM. I am Brother David Muhammad, and I'm going to be in studio with you up to 9 o'clock this morning. And in a short while from now, I will open up the telephone lines and take your calls on 3420081 and 4665391. You can send WhatsApp messages or text messages directly to me on 3320214. And we are live on the Facebook page of the Street 919 FM. Welcome to another program. We've just come through another week in Trinidad and Tobago. And, of course, I'm sure you're aware that today is a very historic day. It is a day where 20 years ago, close to around this same time, an event took place that changed the world almost to the same impact that the COVID-19 pandemic is currently changing the world. And I speak of the event that has become known as 9/11. 20 years ago today, 2 planes flown by terrorists crashed into the Twin Towers at the World Trade Center in New York City. The first one hit, and this was around the 9 o'clock in the morning time span. And of course, there was mass panic and confusion, and this instantly became live worldwide news. I remember I was a school teacher in St. Augustine at that time, and everything stopped and all the staff gathered in the staff room to look at this. There was confusion when the first plane struck. But when the second plane struck, the partly shock but mainly confusion turned into mainly shock and even more confusion. And literally, on that day, the world stood still. There was not a country on this planet that did not have as their major news feature live, interrupting all programs. Whatever was on schedule on whatever television or radio station was put on hold, and live coverage of that event took place. And of course, the planes, all of the airlines and the private planes all across the United States were grounded. Nothing was allowed to fly. Nothing. And in truth and in fact, from that day to now, really it hasn't been the same. Because the kind of security checks, new upgrades to visa requirements to enter the United States and also other countries have been much more strict. There have been much heavier investments in the security. And like I said, the whole world changed. And what followed, now when we look back 20 years ago, what followed was an orchestra of errors. Advantage was taken to carry out all different kinds of political and economic agendas, where the ugliest of it all saw carpet bombing, mass murder, and genocide through warfare by America against the innocent people of Iraq and Afghanistan. And what tells a story is that currently the global microscope is still on Afghanistan and the takeover by the Taliban as a result of the American troops pulling out. But as one commentator observed, they said this is 20 years after America started bombing Afghanistan in the name of revenge for 9/11 and looking for bin Laden. So that's 20 years ago. But they said, but many of these Taliban fighters are 20 years or under, which means that many of them were not even born as yet when 9/11 happened. But somehow that pain became intergenerational. And I would imagine that that would not stop, in the same way that today in the United States of America, many people who are commemorating 9/11 would also be under the age of 20 years old, not born yet. And many, many, many of the soldiers and troops in the Marines, the Air Force, the Navy, and the Army in the United States military, not only would they not have been born as yet, but some would have been little babies, toddlers at the time that it happened. And now they are the major frontline troops. So a legacy is carried on from one generation to another. It must be that way. I remember when I went to New York in 2016 for a number of events and also the book launch of Black Studies. They had put together a pretty packed itinerary for me, and they felt that I would benefit from a tour of the 9/11 World Trade Center Memorial Museum. And it was actually a Muslim police officer who had arranged this tour for me. And I went with my team. And I remember, first of all, listen, this was 5 years ago, New York. I remember seeing crowds of people outside, crowds, and mainly children. So it's a place where they take the schools to do tours. And they were playing, they were running up and down, they were making noise, they were carrying on. Little miserable white children. But when they set foot inside that place, there was a reverence, a silence, a respect. No one was saying a word. And even if someone maybe bumped into something or tripped over something or some noise was made, it's like everyone say shh, 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 shh. Because those children were awe-inspired by learning their own history. Listen, every single piece of steel or any other object that was recovered from the site, they would have gotten a glass case, placed it in, and put an inscription and say, well, this here was part of the staircase that blew up in one of the explosions, or this here was part of the desk in the office, and so on. This here was a fragment from one of the chairs. And they've immortalized everything. There was another part of the museum where there was video recording of each of the 3,000 victims who died at 9/11. So you can go click on the name and get a video recording of something that they did or said. It was incredible. There was a whole staircase that was preserved that apparently survived the rest of the explosions, and they encased it and said this was the staircase. Now those children who saw that would grow up inspired. Putting a bookmark there, just making another point on something. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think it was about 4 weeks ago, the English Premier League season started back. And the first game was between Brentford and Arsenal. Now everyone knows Arsenal. Arsenal would have won the title so many times. They won the European Championship, they won the English Premier League, and they've had some of the greatest players in the world. It's one of the best clubs, one of the top clubs in the world. The first game was Arsenal against a team called Brentford. Now Brentford were in the Premiership for the first time ever. And it was such a huge thing for them, you know, because they came from about 2 leagues below, and they struggled and struggled and struggled, and they got promoted up 1 league. Then they struggled and struggled and struggled again, then got promoted up another league. So here they are, their first game ever in the Premiership, and first time ever in top flight football since like the 1950s. So they were basically just happy to be there. But they beat Arsenal 2-0 on that opening day. And it was like a Cinderella story. It was a shock defeat. And the team celebrated as if they won the World Cup. But you know what stuck out for me more than anything else? In me looking at that match, you know, the camera will zoom in on people in the crowd and so on. And they showed a little child, about 5 years old, with his father, cheering on in such glee. And the commentator said, it's so important that the Brentford club teach all of these little children about the history of their team. Because if they're just coming out to look at 11 men play against 11 men, that's one thing. But if those children could be made to understand that this is something that this team was struggling with for 70 years, and they finally made it. But in order to keep up the success of that struggle, you have to introduce the idea of the struggle to the younger generations that's now coming up so that they can continue with that struggle and get to even higher heights. Coming back to 9/11, 20 years later, today, September 11th, 2021. It is the fact that they have these kinds of memorials, that they have these kinds of museums, that they have these kinds of tours, and they showcase what happened. And their theme is never again. Just like with the Jewish Holocaust. You know where I'm going with this. Our failure to properly instill within our youth the knowledge and truth of what happened to us. But 9/11, after it happened, raised so many questions, many of which, probably most of which, were never really reasonably answered. Such as, how was the FBI able to realize a list and photos of the hijackers within hours? How could at least 5 of the 19 alleged hijackers be alive and well, living in Saudi Arabia after the attacks? All of them died, but the same individuals who were identified were found to still be living in the Middle East. Wrong identity. Next question. How could these alleged hijackers have known that multiple classified air defense drills were planned for the morning of 9/11, leaving only 2 fighter jets available to protect the entire northeastern United States? How did they know that it wasn't a coincidence? Why was the Attorney General, then John Ashcroft, warned to stop using commercial airlines just prior to 9/11? One of the biggest questions: how come the hole in the Pentagon, where a plane allegedly crashed as well, was 18 feet in diameter, but the wingspan of a 757 jetliner is 146 feet? How come a single engine P-828 plane that crashed into the IRS office in Austin, Texas on February 18th, 2010 did more damage to that building than a full 757 jetliner did to the Pentagon? And how could a pilot, Mohammed Atta, who failed his tests on a 1-engine propeller plane, perform maneuvers that only a highly trained airline pilot could do? A 270-degree turn at 500 miles an hour, descending 7,000 feet in 2.5 minutes into a direct hit. That is skill in piloting. And it was apparent that members of the George Bush government were not entirely truthful in regards to the related issues raised. For example, it was never to this day proven that Iraq and Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, or that Afghanistan was involved in the attacks in any way whatsoever. Yet they were subsequently bombed through the shock and awe mission, and thousands of innocent persons were killed. In both Iraq and Afghanistan. On September 11th, 2001, 20 years ago today, there were no visible airline debris where Flight 93 supposedly crashed in Pennsylvania. Only a smoking hole in the ground, but no bodies, no seats, no wings, no luggage was found. It should also be noted that 6 months prior to 9/11, the World Trade Center was purchased by the Silverstein Group for $3.2 billion, even though those buildings were covered in asbestos, an obvious health hazard, and in need of demolition. And Larry Silverstein had taken out insurance coverage on the property, which included for, quote, acts of terrorism. The result was a payout of $4.6 billion. Hence, through a court ruling, a huge profit was made of close to $1.5 billion in insurance alone. And another pertinent question is, what really made the buildings fall? Now, this is a classic example. It's so similar to the COVID-19 conversation. Because, as we discussed during the week, COVID-19 seems to be the only illness that you could follow all the precautions for, hand sanitizing, mask wearing, social distancing, and get a vaccine against. And then after all of that, you can still catch it from an unvaccinated person who does not have it. And remember, the narrative now is, well, and we're only dealing with the information that they themselves admit. Think, I'm putting a bookmark by 9/11 here, because these two events have had a similar impact on terms of the conditioning of the minds of the people. So putting a bookmark there. Think! They're saying that the vaccine doesn't stop you from getting infected, as a real vaccine would. But you can still get infected, but it's just that you won't suffer as badly from the symptoms, okay? Well, what if you take the vaccine and get infected, and I don't take the vaccine, and I'm not infected? Who's of a greater risk to who? Tell me. Are you still at risk by me? Now, can we please, I'm begging, can we please just be honest? And now, what do they call our political system? A parliamentary democracy? Government of the people, for the people, by the people, one man, one vote, with a system of parliamentary representation, the so-called House of Commons or House of Representatives, where persons are elected to represent the interests of the masses who could not be present inside the parliament in their full numbers. That is what, oh, sorry, I was going to say that's what democracy is, but let me rephrase that. That is how they define democracy. So if, for example, they're saying you must take a vaccine, it is mandatory by law. Now think carefully about what I'm saying and stop me as soon as I go off. If they're saying you have to take this by law, and 30% of the people say no, or sorry, 30% of the people say yes, and 70% of the people say no, then by principle of what democracy is defined as, the law must now change to represent the interests of the 70%. Now, I didn't write this. I didn't make this up. That's how they tell the people to vote. We, as representatives of the people, listen, if a constituency, let's say, I think the average number of people in a constituency in Trinidad is approximately 32,000. 32,000 people from one district cannot fit in the Red House. But they elect a representative to speak on their behalf inside the Red House. But if 70% of the people are saying, no, I don't want this, I am against this, then that member of parliament, regardless of what his personal opinion might be, he has to represent the majority. And if with mandatory vaccination, 30% of the people are saying, yes, I am for it, I agree, and 70% of the people are saying, no, I'm not for it, then the government has to represent the 70%. Now think on something else here. Please, I'm begging you, use your brain. Let's look at Grenada. Up to September the 6th, Grenada's total death toll from COVID-19 was 5 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Remember, this virus has been out for like a year and a half, going on 2 years now. And in all that time, only 5 people died from COVID in Grenada. That's right next door to us, where we've had close to 1,000. That was up to September the 6th. 5 people. But then something extraordinarily mysterious happens on September the 7th. In one single day, the entire almost 2-year death toll doubles overnight, with 7 new deaths. How did that happen? And on that same day, Trinidad and Tobago's own Dr. Avery Hines at the Ministry of Health's press conference explained something. Now, again, I am dealing with no other information except the information that is being given to us by the authorities. Dr. Avery Hines, during the question and answer session, this would have been on September the 6th itself, said something that kind of struck me. Well, and again, this was in the question and answer part. Go back and get the recording. I'm sure it's still online. He explained that the statistics, the death statistics that we have, are not necessarily people who died from COVID, but they're people who died with COVID. Meaning, hypothetically, if someone dies from a heart attack, cancer, stroke, diabetes, whatever, they say they die from that and they just happen to get infected with COVID-19 or they tested positive, they're going down as a statistic under the death toll for COVID-19. Do you, the public, agree with that? Is that honest? And is that why Grenada's figures would have went up overnight? Because we have to find out when exactly they started the tally of the death toll in that way. Something is so wrong about all of this. Or is that simply another way to try to get the public to be frightened into taking the vaccines? What is it? How can they change the method literally overnight, midstream, somewhere along the way, and we find out, you could say by accident, at a press conference? Now listen, think about this, people. I remember we're looking at 9/11. So coming back to that, and again, brainwashing the people. You see, there are certain things that you could just say it once, say it twice, say it 3 times, keep saying it over and over, and then before you know it, the general public just starts to embrace it. And I am sure the first person who ever said that the unvaccinated are a threat to the vaccinated, I am sure whoever said that first must have been aware that something is kind of faulty in this logic. But I'm sure if we say it again and again and again, and enough people hear it enough times, I bet you soon they start to repeat it. And guess what? Now you're hearing people repeating that same thing. The vaccinated are under threat to the unvaccinated. And it's just like parroting up. Right, let's go back to 9/11 now. We all saw the video footage of those twin towers falling. But the planes crashed into the top of the towers. But you saw those buildings collapse from the bottom. You really think you need a degree, a master's, or a PhD in rocket science to understand this? You beloved thing, you saw it. Right? You don't even have to try to visualize or say, you saw it for yourself. Planes crashed into the top of the building, but yet still the buildings crumbled from the bottom. And just like this, talk about vaccinated and unvaccinated, they said, well, the jet fuel leaked down and caused the buildings to collapse. Wow. And beloved, see, this is the thing about brainwashing. Go to any of the footage, you will see that there were explosives laced on several of the floors of the building. The firemen in there. Go on YouTube right now, the interviews with the firemen who were evacuating the building. They said they heard explosions, not jet fuel running down, explosions on each floor. One described it as boom, 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 one after the other going down. There were explosives already in the building. And if you don't believe that, then do your research on Building 7. Because it was not just 2 buildings that went down, it was 3 buildings that went down. The 2 twin towers where the planes hit, but a 3rd building called Building 7 also went down, and no plane hit Building 7. And Building 7 went down by a controlled demolition in the same way that the first 2 buildings went down. So, one security guard at the World Trade Center reported the abrupt removal of explosive sniffing dogs 5 days prior to 9/11. And no steel-framed building before or since 9/11 has ever collapsed due to fire. Fire cannot cause an entire building to collapse. The World Trade Center buildings were also designed to withstand the impact of airliner planes. The melting point of steel is approximately 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit, and the temperature of the jet fuel does not exceed 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Two distinct spikes, one for each tower, were seen in seismic records before the towers collapsed. Almost like there was an earthquake with the magnitude of the explosives used to take down the buildings. The World Trade Center towers collapsed in free fall speed in only 11 seconds for World Trade Center 1 and 9 seconds for World Trade Center 2. Speeds that approximate that of a ball dropped from a similar height with no air resistance. And many people, including New York Fire Department personnel, reported hearing these explosions at street level prior to the towers falling. The evidence overwhelmingly suggests that there was already explosives on several of the floors long before the planes hit. And then more questions arise. Who were the men on top of a van with a tripod camera across the Hudson River filming the towers just before the plane hit? How did they know to be there? And why were they allegedly celebrating? The police arrested these men and then let them go into Israeli custody. Why? And all of that talk about the men do you remember? And these aren't things that you have to think too hard for. Beloved, how many of you remember what the first figure you heard was on the death toll? In fact, you know what? I should open the lines here. Maybe you will. Okay, the official death toll right now is about 3,000. But I want you to recall how much they said at first. And one of the earliest questions was that most of the people of the Jewish faith tradition were not present on that day. Let me open up the telephone lines. 342-0081, 466-5391. Let's open up the lines. Caller, good morning.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother David, one of the greatest amazing things that happened 20 years ago is one of the alleged hijackers passport was found after the explosion.
Yes, yeah. I saw a video that they put together of the passport flying out a window and falling into the hands of a policeman.
Yes, I want that passport. If you have passport, if you have that passport, you material that passport make out. I want some clothes make out of that material. So it amazed me. And another thing too, the records, when it's done after 9/11, all the records is shipped out to somewhere in South Korea, somewhere like that. A junkyard, nobody can investigate it. So David Mommel, it's very amazing to try to fool people to tell you that 2 planes brought down those 2 buildings. Why firefighters say when they was going upstairs or an explosion beneath them? Firefighters say when they was going upstairs or an explosion detonating beneath them, floors that they done cover already. Enjoy your morning. I'm taking the program from an work.
Thank you, my brother. And yes, you're correct. Unfortunately, I have to ask you, when you get through, just go ahead with the contribution. All right. Caller, good morning.
Hello, good morning. You hear me clearly and I hear me on the phone? Huh?
Yes, I'm hearing you clearly. You go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, man. Good morning to the nation, morning. But David, I just want to ask you something. The term population control. Just give me a quick analogy of what you think about that. Well, just give me a response in terms of when you hear that term, population control.
Basically, the term refers to statistics, numbers, manipulating natural birth rates, growth rates, increased rates. So if, for example, as they say in Europe, first of all, if a population growth rate is less than 2.1%, then that group is in decline. All right. So, but most African and Asian countries would have a birth rate or a population increase of, say, 5 or 6.
Right.
So population control is to try to reduce or limit that.
Right. And this reference term is from an objective standpoint. For instance, if you have rabbits, or if you have lionfish, or if you have a herd of deers or something increasing in population, the reference of the person, how to put it, boy, where they might start to invade your territory or eat out your crops or stuff like that. But the herd themselves, they don't think that they have any real problem as they multiply and they scatter. You understand? But because it's infringing on somebody else's mode of living, or something else's mode of living, they think that they should control that population. So, for instance, if rabbits get out of control, or let me get closer to home, the cockrico. Remember, they wanted to start to eat it to control the population. So, population control is a statement made by another species towards one species. It is rooted in logic that that does not come from within the species itself. And the thing is, we have problems on the earth with humanity. And
okay, sorry about that. Well, the countdown is on. But and in the 8 o'clock hour, I want to just say something about another historic occasion that took place on Tuesday this week, I believe it was, which was the first ever Africa CARICOM Summit. The first ever. This was a monumental step. And my good brother and friend, Brother David Kamiziong of Barbados, was instrumental in putting this together. But you had at least about, I think, 12 or so heads of government from Africa and the Caribbean in this joint forum discussing how we can work together, how the Caribbean could become closer with Africa, and how we could work together and secure our future. So yes, there are pros and cons. We understand that a lot of things were said, and I understand all the feelings on both sides, trust me. But for the most part, I would say that it is something tremendously positive. All right, so we'll discuss that when we come back in the 8 o'clock hour. But stay with us. Don't go away.
Just take a time from the inside. From the inside of so me. From the inside, yes, of me and me, you delight. I want you to delight in my life. From the inside, yes, right up of the inside, yes, of me, and set me on fire. Set from the inside. Give it. What's that? Let get hold of me, don't worry. He said, me, come feel. On the inside, yes, of me, and set me on fire. On the inside, hey, say on the inside, hey. Come here, who say, hey, say all I want is for you to be glorified and you to be lifted high. Hey, all I want is for you to be glorified, you to be lifted high. All I want is for you to be glorified, you to be lifted high. All I want is for you to be glorified, you to be lifted high. Come here, me say, fill my life till all they see is you, Lord. Glorify your name. Fill my life till all they see is you, Lord. Glorify your name. Fill my life till all they see is you, Lord. Glorify your name. Fill my life till all they see is you, Lord. Glorify your On the feeling, ladies, y'all do nothing more. On the motto. Say all I want, yeah, is for you to be glorified and you to be lifted high. All I want is for you to be glorified, you to be lifted high. All I want, yeah, is for you to be glorified, you to be lifted high. All I want is for you to be glorified, you to be lifted high.
Are you experiencing loss of vision or are your glasses broken? At Value Optical, we're open and we're here to help. You can have your urgent eyeglasses in 3 days with packages starting at $695. When you visit us, be mindful of the 3 W's. Wear your mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. Please call us toll-free 800-2020 for expert advice on your vision needs or to book your appointment. Value Optical, caring for your eyes.
Looking for a safe and relaxed professional massage therapist and nutritionist? Look no further. Nature's Touch with Empress Judy and Associates offers a natural approach to better health. Treat yourself to a professional massage therapy and nutrition advice in a safe and relaxed atmosphere. Rejuvenate your body, mind, and soul at Nature's Touch Therapy. For an appointment, please call or WhatsApp 1-868-398-8282 or visit our Facebook page. Remember, your health is our responsibility at Nature's Touch.
Hey, you keeping safe? I hope so. I don't really know what will happen when everything will back up, but the line had to go on. But in the meantime, just come online with the live wire. I'm on the Street 919 FM every Saturday from 5 to 8 p.m. Or you could check us out on the live on Facebook at the Street 919 FM or on YouTube at Street TV. Don't forget to share the live. That might just be as important as you keeping safe. So mask up, sanitize, tune in to the Street 919 FM, Lime on the Live Wire, Saturday afternoons, 5 to 8 p.m. Don't worry, I gotta be home in time for the coffee. Keep safe.
This is the voice of the PNM. On Tuesday, September 14th at 7 p.m. Tune into all major TV and radio stations, PNM's Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channel. We'll be coming to you live from Diego Martin. Feature address by Dr. Keith Rowley and a powerful lineup of speakers. On Tuesday, September 14th at 7 p.m. Tune in, click, like, and share. Rate is the PNM.
More and more young people are going to the hospital because of COVID-19 and even dying. I lost my brethren at just 24 years old to this COVID. We have to stop this pandemic now.
It's time to vaccinate.
So this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. we heading down to the St. Babs Basketball Court, the Laventille Rodham section, or Betham Community Center. Just walk in, no appointment needed. 12 years and over. It have the Sinopharm, the Pfizer, and the one-dose vaccine, Johnson & Johnson. Let's do this thing now. I ready to go to the beach, watch a little movie with my bird, lie with my friends. This Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. St. Babs Basketball Court, Laventille Rodham section, or the Betham Community Center. 12 years and over, and don't forget your ID card or birth certificate.
Vaccinale, presented by the Honorable Fitzgerald Hines, Member of Parliament for Laventille West, in collaboration with the Northwest Regional Health Authority.
Blessings in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You are invited to listen to the Final Hour broadcast heard every Monday from 12 midnight to 5 a.m. in the morning on the Street 919 FM radio. Hear my mom, Pastor Helen Garcia, and myself, Pastor Valentine Garcia Jr., preach the Word of God to the elderly, youth, and children. We can be contacted at 629-0113 or 623-8444. The church is located at 26 Prince Street in Port of Spain. We look forward to you joining us. God bless you.
As my life I lay it on the altar, as my life.
Better vision for your physical eyes, and through the eyes of faith, let healing arise in your mind, body, and spirit. At Natural Healing Ministries, we teach kingdom principles for living that brings the blessing of God to your mind, body, and soul.
NHM Professional Associates are located at number 10 Moody Stewart Street, Monrepos, San Fernando. For more info, contact Dr. Desmond Phillip at NHM on 349-3494.
NHM Professional Associates can be heard live on the Street 919 FM every Saturday from 9:05 to 9:55 a.m.
Share the live. Share the live. The Street 919 FM on Facebook and Instagram. Share the live. Iowa George on Instagram. Share the live. Iowa TV and Street TV on YouTube. Share the live. The Street 919 FM.
Brotherhood is required. Brotherhood is demanded. Brotherhood is obligatory.
Black man get up, black man stand up, black man you better listen.
So there's a need for brotherhood.
Black man get up, black man stand up, black man you better listen. Black man get up, black man stand up, black man you better listen.
Brotherhood is demanded.
Black man get up, black man stand up, black man you better listen.
Brotherhood is required. Brotherhood is demanded. Brotherhood is obligatory. Brotherhood is essential, it is urgent, and it is compulsory. But the time demands brotherhood. Whenever the dominant white society fears for its economic future, racial tensions are always aggravated.
Welcome back and welcome to the second hour of the Black Agenda here on the Street 919 FM. We're going up to 9 o'clock. And so, beloved, September the 7th, 2021 was a historic day for the entire African diaspora, where the first ever CARICOM Africa Summit was held, which featured a forum of heads of government from the Caribbean and also various countries in Africa together discussing how we can better unify our interests as separate regions, but recognizing our common heritage. And that our Africanness must now be recognized within the political arena. Some of the key points that came out of the CARICOM Africa Summit were that we should establish a forum of African and Caribbean states to be coordinated jointly by the Secretariats of CARICOM and the African Union. Designation of September the 7th as Africa Caribbean Day. Staging of an annual Africa CARICOM Summit every year on September the 7th. To charge the Secretariats of CARICOM and the African Union to produce within 6 months an Africa CARICOM Charter and a Memorandum for Understanding for the operationalization of the forum. To establish a multilateral air services agreement between Africa and the Caribbean. The signing of a double taxation agreement between Africa and the Caribbean. The removal of visas for Africans to allow hassle-free travel to the Caribbean, and for people of the Caribbean to have hassle-free travel to Africa. It was also proposed that there should be the establishment of a regular weekly direct airline flight between an African country and one CARICOM member state at least, even if it means that the African Union and CARICOM may have to provide some modest financial or other support in the commencement phase of such a venture. That there should be the establishment of a joint African Caribbean electronic mass media platform or mechanism that facilitates the flow of news, information, and artistic programming between Africa and the Caribbean for the benefit of the two peoples. There should be the establishment of an African CARICOM public-private partnership dedicated to mobilizing resources and deploying them in critical cutting-edge projects centered around renewable energy and digital technology. And there must be a collective commitment to participate fully in the upcoming high-level meeting of the United Nations General Assembly in commemoration of the 20th anniversary of the 2001 United Nations World Conference Against Racism, and to jointly use that high-level event to advance the claim for reparations within the processes of the United Nations. Now, of course, all of these are magnificent proposals, suggestions, long overdue. This is what we need. But based on a broad pool of feedback that we have gotten, many Caribbean people who live in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom felt so proud of this achievement, having this forum, as I also feel very proud about it. But people within the Caribbean themselves, across the various CARICOM nations, have identified what they feel to be some measure of hypocrisy on the part of political leaders who have ignored the interests and concerns and the plight of the African community in Caribbean countries, but participate in these broader global forums where they talk about service to the African people. Now, I personally, as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, was happy to hear our Prime Minister mention the United Nations Decade for People of African Descent. That was a magnificent point. But again, our Caribbean people out there in America and Europe would applaud that, but we here in Trinidad would say, but why did it take 7 years? And why wasn't that discussed internally with the country rather than, again, in a global forum with other world leaders? And many people from other Caribbean societies feel the same way about this kind of approach. That we can get together, like in the March 11, 2014 meeting of all 15 heads of CARICOM who unanimously agreed to the 10-point plan of action for reparations. That is magnificent. But how much progress has been made moving towards reparations in these Caribbean countries? Many of them have not even said or uttered a word about it. But again, discuss it in global forums. This is the responsibility now of grassroots people on the ground level to get involved in social organizations and black movements to push for the kind of justice that politicians have been failing in giving us. And in particular, when it comes to Africa and the Caribbean, one thing that I hope would be raised by at least next year is the fact that we still to this day have so many Africans from Africa who have not committed any crimes, languishing in these detention centers, being treated like animals, denied their rights. And while this country has opened up borders for other peoples from Russia, from India, from Venezuela, it is Africans from Africa who are more socially integrated into the African community in Trinidad than any other ethnic group from anywhere else on the planet. You have Africans from Africa who come to Trinidad, get married to Trinidadians, have children, settle down, start a family, and still they're put in jail, treated like dogs, disrespected and denied of their rights. And many times they're kept in these detention centers until they themselves could personally afford to pay for a flight to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars to go back to Africa, being kicked out of the country while Venezuelans, Indians, and Russians and Chinese come into the country, but yet still we're sitting in an Africa CARICOM forum with heads of government from all across the world. That needs to be fixed. And unfortunately, this has lingered on for so long. And in many of these countries as well, African people are still the last in line when it comes to certain special privileges, especially as it pertains to getting multi-million-dollar government contracts. And we are programmed and commissioned to make excuses as to why African people should not get these privileges and opportunities. So I am saying, hats off, I salute, I applaud 1,000% the Africa Caribbean Summit, and I will support every year on September the 7th, but we have to deal with these matters internally and not just in external conversations. African people still must get justice from the state, from the government, within our societies, by our constitution, through the courts. But I am saying as well, it has to start with us. We must be organized on the ground, grassroots level. And there most likely will be a grassroots Africa CARICOM summit as well. It's possible that the Black Agenda Project organization will host it, but that will be to provide grassroots support to the wider objectives. And if the bigger politicians in their sovereign positions and in their capacity as political leaders fail in the delivery of those objectives to the masses of the people, we still have the responsibility to take it upon ourselves to seek justice by going out and taking it rather than sitting down and waiting for it. And having said that, couple other things that we have to deal with before I go back to the phones. Because there's this video going around of Imam Yassin Abu Bakr from Juma yesterday talking about a warning. Now let me explain something. In the Holy Quran, it talks about the role of the prophet and the role of the messenger. And it points out that his only job, think about this, the only job of the prophet Doesn't say the prophet in the Quran, who is the example. So we have to follow the example of the prophet. Now, the Quran doesn't say that the role of the prophet is to go and feed the poor and visit the sick and take care of the homeless. Yeah, we do that as Muslims. But the only mandated role of the prophet is to be a clear warner to the people. That's all that is mandated to do. Warn the people. And if the prophet is our example, as we say, we follow the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, then we must be a faithful warner, as the Quran says. Now, what the Imam did yesterday, in my estimation, was just that. He warned the society. And he did not say that if you don't do this, I will do that. No. He said if the society does not do this, Allah will do that. But our people, being a nation of cowards and seeking to promote hysteria, took that, in my humble judgment, way out of context. Just like this week, where there was a particular murder that took place, and I still have to send a voice note to a certain person in the media, because the news report that I saw was so ridiculously false and outrageous. There has been peace in the community between the gangs for over a year now. Yes, there's a murder here and a murder there and another murder here and another murder there. But the open gang warfare has ended since last year, June. Now, a gang leader who I have had interaction with, particularly in the prison on a few occasions, and I say, may Allah be pleased with the brother for his efforts to right whatever wrongs may have taken place, as is what we all face at our point of demise, our own personal individual judgment. Unfortunately, we have become so preoccupied with the judgment of other people's sins as opposed to the judgment of our own sins. But after this murder took place, the TV6 News openly declared the peace is over. The gang war is back on. And they showed images of about 50 police officers walking through the Beetham. And it's insane. There was a murder right after that killing, as is the norm in Trinidad many times. But to so irresponsibly push this now, but the gang warfare is back on and the peace is over. It was somebody wants that. Somebody is hoping that that instability can be reignited based on their investments in national security. Don't be fooled, people. And you know, I was asked to be part of a press conference when I said, we still collecting information. We still trying to get together facts on this. And of all the information that we've received so far, from on the street, from among the gangs, from outside of the gangs, from within protective services, the consensus thus far seems to be that it was one of two persons who killed that brother. One of two categories of persons. It was either one, fake police, or two, real police. One of those two. Either fake police or real police? None of the feedback that we got has said, well, it was this gang or that gang or another gang. One of those two, either fake police or real police. And views seem to be divided between those two. Speaking of police, you know, last week I was invited by my brother and friend, Karen Clark, also known as Prees, the founder of the DSS, to the opening of a business that brother opened, the A to Z pawn shop at number 1 O'Meara Road in Arima. And a lot of memories were reignited, you know. There were a lot of comments, both positive and negative on both sides. I, of course, was exposed to much more positive ones than negative ones. But what struck me was I heard the acting commissioner of police, in my humble judgment, with all due respect to him, taking a bait. Because here's someone in the media is saying to him, we saw on social media the DSS people just opened a new business. Now, come on, you should know that after all that brother went through, where the police on his back, the very prime minister of the country on a national platform referred to him as a major threat to national security, his business. Not all the Syrians who are trafficking drugs, not all the Syrians who are importing cocaine and gun running, they're not a major threat to national security, but our prime minister said on a public platform, he, the little black boy in DSS, is a major threat to national security. And they came and seized tens of millions of dollars in cash. All right. So you think that a black man will go through all of that and then open another business and not do all the checks and balances, crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's? You really think he's not gonna make sure that it's legit? Well, you really have some opinions of us. So a member of the media calls the acting commissioner of police and says to him, oh, we saw on social media that this person opened a new business. Now, again, to me, this is not how a senior military man conducts himself. Because our brother, acting commissioner, said, yeah, I saw it too. And we're investigating. And I'm saying, in other words, hey, this African here is promoting a business that might take money out of non-Africans' hands. Do something about it, boy. And then he says, it's okay, don't worry, I'll make sure he doesn't succeed. I'll check it out. We're doing our investigations. You took the bait, man. And that's unfortunate. We can't keep falling into those kinds of traps, beloved. Oh, and I said Syrian drug traffickers just now. Okay, well, let me substantiate that. Apart from Dr. Darius Figueira, #1 leading criminologist in the Caribbean, who said there are no African drug lords on the top level. The drug lords in the Caribbean region are Syrians, Chinese, whites, and East Indians. But those who go to jail for drug offenses are Africans. And if the acting commissioner of police is going to see something on social media and then investigate it, I refer you to one political leader of a party that represented at least 30 districts in the election of last year, one Philip Edward Alexander, who is on video, and we have the clip of him saying that he has a Syrian friend who's trafficking cocaine. We have that on video, which was posted on social media. He said words to the effect of, I have a Syrian partner who's trafficking cocaine. And I just asked him, boy, how you just feel when you do? And he said, if he doesn't do it, someone else has to do it. That was live. But how come you're not investigating that? But the little black boy with the business, who also is putting forth a plan to compensate all of the people who lost money in his business, it's not my business. Listen, the man came for it. They took millions of dollars that was in his possession that he has to give back to the people. So that's being discussed among them. But you run in to investigate him, but openly on social media, man saying, my Syrian partner trafficking cocaine. And I talk to him and say, well, how you feel doing that? And he says that, well, if I don't do it, someone else will do it. Go and investigate that, sir. Pathetic. Let me go back to the phone lines. 342-0081-466-5391. So, September the 7th, the new day that we're adding to our calendar. The CARICOM Africa Summit. All right. Let's go back to the phones. Caller, good morning.
Morning. I just wanted to finish.
Yeah. Quickly, please.
So what I'm saying now is that the reference film of population control comes from something different to what controlling the population now. It is always another species that is trying to control another species now, if you understand. And in being our consciousness is so compressed that we don't even realize that some of the adages and cliches that we have is of non-human origin. But I'll leave that right there. As far as the African diaspora is concerned, the voice is going to get louder, and I don't see it as, I wouldn't look at it as why it takes so long. However, looking at it as this situation could bring out the voices and bring it together. And in terms of reparation, and I just have one reference in closing towards reparation. It over the years, over the millennia, our intelligence, our discoverers who discover things that goes against the status quo of wealth and capitalism and discover things for the betterment of humanity. How much time people discover cure for it and die? How much time people discover cure for cancer and get silence and push in the background and threaten and have to stay in the background and don't come out with the research again? So, part of the reparation I am suggesting is the protection of our knowledge-based individuals, is that when they discover something that does not latch on to the pharmaceuticals and does not latch on to the basic general oppression and exploitation of the human being, when that discovery is made, we need to ask, or we need to demand as part of reparation, stop, killing our knowledge bearers and the return of the knowledge that they have hidden. It have a lot of very serious knowledge. One of the reasons why people not like us are successful in their exploitation and oppression is because of the knowledge that they have. So I wanted that to be part of reparation, the protection of our knowledge bearers, our black people, the Martin Luther King. Anytime any one of the black people rise up again to bring liberation for us mentally and spiritually, and with the depths of the discoveries of what God is all about and stuff like that, we need to ask for their protection and that they stop. Look at the fellow who discovered the pawpaw in the COVID. When he sent pawpaw, he sent good this, he sent that and the other. He did. Anybody who have technique, Haiti, I think Haiti count was low also, the president did. Anybody who have techniques that goes against the regressive agenda, they always hunt them down and get rid of them, disappear and stuff like that. So I want that to be part, a very, very, very serious, notable part of reparation, the reparation of knowledge. Thank you very much, Brady, for allowing me.
Thank you. And just to let you know, the 10-point plan of action for reparations, items 6, 7, and 8 are psychological rehabilitation, illiteracy eradication, and an African knowledge program. So the African knowledge program might be similar to what you're suggesting regarding knowledge as part of reparations. But thanks for that contribution. Caller, good morning.
A blessed morning, Brother David.
Yes, good morning to you.
Yeah, well, I want to the Caribbean African Summit, but what is the follow-up, the connectivity and the continual communication with us about whatever was on the agenda? Because I hear the speeches of two, I hear everybody, if you understand what I'm saying, some means or some method of the government of Trinidad and Tobago and the other government to bring it on the Parliament channel.
Yes, very good, very good. I wonder if it was on the Parliament channel, though.
Oh, it was nowhere.
It should have been.
Of course.
And they need to be replaying it.
Well, and if you ever
it's on the CARICOM Facebook page.
Well, yes. Well, where I know is that it was on, let me say, the internet.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? It was on the internet. People could have get it on the internet. But the ordinary citizen who doesn't have internet or computer or whatever, you understand what I'm saying? Yeah? That message went out through the little snippets that they give us of the Prime Minister's speech and Mia Motley's speech. I ain't said here, Mr. Gonzalez, if you understand.
Yeah,
what
no,
I'm saying.
he spoke.
Yeah, I didn't hear it, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Thing, but what I'm saying is that it must have some connectivity to a follow-up of what happened on the 7th of September.
Yeah.
So that it shouldn't be like the fowl lay the egg and you have to wait the 21 days the others are showing for the chicken to hatch. If you understand what I'm saying.
I hear you.
It's not like that. This is what I would like to see, because as a share, Brother David, is a long agenda on Africa. Yes, actually the history, just as the guy said it, the education of Africans have been stymied, not even stymied. What they're giving you here is an educational system to continue in this feudal system that they create with the wealthy on top and the poor below you, and it has some people in between who doesn't neither rich nor poor. You're just like Humpty Dumpty now, if you're So what we need is proper education about African and African history. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my brother. And really, when we published the book, Knowledge is Power, at the beginning of it, we identified the need for this kind of material and black studies in accordance with the United Nations Decade for People of African Descent, because they specified 3 out of the 10 items. Now think about that. 3 out of the 10 items are actually geared towards some kind of knowledge, some kind of education. And so reading it here, this is the opening of Knowledge is Power. It says the United Nations General Assembly, by its resolution 68-237 of December 23rd, 2013, proclaimed the International Decade for People of African Descent, commencing on January the 1st, 2015, and ending on December 31st, 2024, with the theme People of African Descent, Recognition, Justice, and Development. And this curriculum of black studies that we put together seek to offer an academic pathway to the realization of these objectives, along with the CARICOM 10-point reparations plan. All right? And so we established an African Knowledge curriculum. It's in Black Studies. It's also in Knowledge is Power. Let's go back to the phones. Caller, good morning.
Good morning to you, Brother Mohammed.
Good morning.
Let me say, because I was very concerned last night when I see that video went viral, all social media pages, and comments coming in. People went live on Facebook pages, take clips.
Okay, what about it concerned you?
concerned me that over 46 years that this man's school didn't get finance from the government. That is something to be concerned about.
Right, I agree with you.
Something to question about. That is something to be vexed about. That is something to be angry about. That is something to be mad about. Because when you see all other schools in this country getting funding and sponsored by the government, what about my school? And most of all, there's majority of African children going there. It's sad. So I listen when I see, I say, who get this man vexed? I said, somebody had to get this man vexed. This man let's be cool and calm. But Mohammed, this thing with this country, which way some of these Africans who playing blind, and who saying I support one shot, one kill, who saying I support armor vehicles, who saying support kill them. No, you cannot kill them. Them are our brothers and sisters. Are you mad at? I cannot, and that's why many people in this country don't like Kingsley, because I cannot support that. How I know my brothers and sisters in my community, they need help. Yes, Kingsley, have the power and the thing to go down that road, but I am not going to say because Kingsley make it, you could make it too. You need a help, you need a hand, you need a push. We need to help our brothers and them. We need to go in right now in our community, in the area of Austin South. There's a little fire, smoke, kind of heating up. Nobody ain't concerned about that. Nobody ain't care about that. Nobody ain't understand that these fellas is losing hope. I'm not saying what they're doing is right. I beg them to put on the guns. I tell them that what they're doing is destroying themselves and the family, because they're leaving the son without a father, the daughter without a father, the mother holding the belly and bawling, the girlfriend crying, the wife bawling on the place. I can't stop that, but they need help. So how could I join evil, join the boys to do evil, to support that? These boys are worthless. They want nothing. They want hand off. They want to kill. I say what they're doing is wrong. What they're doing is wrong. But I cannot join no government in this country, no human being in this country, no race, I'm not even joining my own race, African, to say kill them out. I'm not even joining no political party who I support to say kill them out. Because I from this community, I understand, I live it, I born here, I know that not because Kingsley brave, Kingsley out there, Kingsley could say, hey, I could forget them. Don't want that Kingsley are friends in high places, in low places. You know how many Kingsley know people know Kingsley. I think I could say that, look, I'm going up, and I'm going to leave them. When David Shabbos sent to call me personally, when Chubby, these people tell me things, and today it's with me. These people send me up. Come on, before I go, I want to say it again. I'm very concerned because today I am no longer bound to no political party. The UNC leave me. I never leave the UNC, right? And I'm speaking here as not a UNC or a PNM. I'm speaking here as Kingsley. I am very concerned that this man, UNC come, PNM go, and they discriminate that school. You discriminate that black man. You discriminate them children, them black children who go in that school, and it have some mixed children too in that school. In the Muslim school or Baptist school. What what more special than Satmaraj School? What more special than Satmaraj, the Hindu school? What more special than Baka school that cannot get finance? When they want to come and talk about black man, and we are against the black man. But look, we've seen black people against black people in this country who in high places, and we don't talk about it because why? Well, they're parking power, and we're going to make it look bad. But we looking bad. Not only the black, not only he looking bad, no. We looking bad because the and if we look bad, he look bad. But that's it. The difference, he have money. The only is different that he have money. But if we look at, because you feel his friends and them who in high places, the Syrians, the Indians, you see they don't look at him. You see they don't go behind doors and talk about him. That's how they look at us. In all circles, they might allow we in the family because we become a doctor, become a lawyer, and we can mind it and a daughter. We can provide them with a good house. We can buy a car for the daughter. So do they allow some of us who become an MP, become a sportsman, a cricketers, because if they watch all the cricketers of them, from Chris Gayle to Russell, what's the wife they have? I mean, when you go from this world, you see these Africans and them who sell out in this country and in this world, what's Chris Gayle, what's Russell wife, what all of them, watch all of them, because they have money, they will accept you. But I want to tell them something here. I cannot accept 46 years this school, and I'm very mad about it. How we treat this man in this country for 46 years, and only feed sat for over 60 years in this country, and continue feeding them, and continue making sure that all these in the school in this country build and have good things. I don't care about that. And nobody, because they could say things. I will give a moment before I go. UNC leave Kingsley. Kingsley never leave the UNC. Jack Warner said, Kamala, nice. But people said she have the sex still. That he say. He said and she's very nice. She's very nice. But things to talk about. I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I ain't calling for a very long while because I give people the rain, but we're calling on this program because I start here. But I'm finishing, I'm going on all the programs on it, and then social media and everybody and promote this because this man had to get help. The characters leave out this man to say, and the man never checked nobody.
Exactly.
The man never warned nobody. The man was just talking his heart. That was a hurting man day. That was a man in feeling. That man was crying out. That was a black man saying, hey, oh, everybody else, different ways getting something, and me getting nothing. Oh, only leave that black man alone, you know. Only leave that this city. Only see that man cry out. Only see that man cry out, and then say, oh, can't be going on in the country. That man ain't saying nothing. That man got only went already and hand up from here, boy.
Thank you. (3420081) and I've just noticed something. Right, so 3420081 and 4665391. Some people honestly just thrive off hype, hysteria, sensationalism, and many of the people who were circulating that video yesterday, again, were more doing it, in my humble estimation, out of, and this seems to be en vogue now, fear mongering, scare tactics, subtle promotion of a threat. In the Holy Quran, at the beginning of chapter 2 from verse 6, it gives a first scenario of confrontation with people. And it says there are those who would say that they are sincere, but they're not sincere, and they will not be whether you warn them or not, and they have a seal on their hearts which creates a disease in their hearts. And when they're in front of you, they say, we believe. But when they're in the presence of their people, they say, we do not believe, we were just mocking. And they seek to deceive others, but end up only deceiving themselves. And then Allah says, they are mischief makers, but they claim to be peacemakers. And many of the people who were circulating that video of the Imam, Yasin Abu Bakr, might claim to want peace in the society. Same thing what TV6 did this week, saying the war is back and the peace is over and there are police on patrol all over in the community. They claim to be peacemakers, but they really are mischief makers. And yesterday, this whole week was a week that showed that. Caller, are you there?
Yes, but
yes, sir.
Well, there's a thing about, the media spread most propaganda. Them shooking the dog if you was ashamed you. But I want to shoot the dog behind them. And my dog is a little potong, you was ashamed. But my concern is the United Nations. You call it the United Nations, but I always say the United Abominations. As they don't like to, they bomb up your nation. And here how hypocritical them is. You know, if the Israelites have the West Bank and the Gaza, this year will be 54 years, they occupy both. But they have the Gaza as a terrorist state, a whole open prison camp that they could bomb away, kill anytime they want, maim anytime they want, destroy anytime they want, because the United Nations sanctioned that through the United States, because that's the 52nd state of America, that touched Israel, the Israelites,
You said Israel is the 52nd state of the United States of America?
Of course.
I disagree.
Why?
I will say Israel is the first state of the United States of America.
Oh, well, okay. All right,
not 52nd is way too low down.
Right, okay. All right. You say Kentucky and California and Texas, if you was there. But what I'm saying is that they're doing every single thing against these people, and the United Nations ain't doing one thing about it, especially Africa. That, according to you, that is the first state, and it's disheartening to see that the Taliban now, they reach back after 20 years because they have America. Here, look at how they, Satsak have 3 more brothers, and all of them in the United States Army is Gladsack, Malsack, and Badsack, if you was watching you.
That's the memories there, boy.
Yeah, well, this is, what I'm telling you. That is Satsak right now. As I show you, America never win a war. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for those memories about Sadsak. I want to also say congratulations to all the children who were successful and who did the SEA exam. But I have to also say, let's be honest. All those children who were celebrating and all those children who were crying, who were upset by their results, none of those children, and I'm going out on a limb here to say now, I could say 99%, but I'll go out on a limb to say none, not one, none of those children. All right, let me say 99% of those children. They were not celebrating their marks. They were celebrating the school. And those who were upset, they wouldn't have been so much upset by their marks as they would have been upset by the school that they were sent to. Because you do have some students, as is the case every year, who will get high marks and not get the school that they wanted to go to. And so they'll be upset. They wouldn't be happy because they got a high mark. And likewise, there are some students who get their first choice, mainly some of the white children, who get low marks. But they're still celebrating because they got the school that they want. So, my heart goes out to all of the students, and I know it's a trial. It's difficult. It's not easy. It's a traumatic time for all. But I mean, your whole future is ahead of you, and you must remain positive and optimistic about it. All right. All right. Caller.
Love and respect.
Blessings.
Blessed morning to the eye. Enough strength and love to TNT. Yeah, on the note of them youth and them over this year, it's very good to see 20 of them pass for their first choice.
Yeah.
And as you say, they ain't ready to celebrate the high and low mark. Probably the pandemic caused that. And the online teaching.
Well, yeah. Oh, well, that is another issue, because I think, I might be mistaken, but there was one particular girl. I think she came very high up in the country. She might have come in the top 7. But, she came so high in the top 10 in the country at least. And the mother was saying, they had to get the device she was using didn't have internet, and they had to get internet from like someone else. And I'm thinking, wow, to go through all of that, no internet or didn't have a tablet and had to borrow someone else's, and still came in the top 10. Little African girl.
Yeah, they get time, you see. They get plenty time with the internet to work. Yeah. Smaller the system work with, you know what I mean? It work for them because plenty of them don't take care already. So the work was quick for them. The brain don't settle in that matter already because the world going technology and it's functioning within the youth of today. Plenty of them ain't really know how valuable it is yet.
Yeah.
But they will soon get to that.
Yeah, thanks so much, though. But this is where I have to wind down for this morning. Of course, I'll be back on Saturday, next week Saturday morning for the Black Agenda, but I'm on Gael TV every Sunday evening and Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. And of course, live on Facebook Wednesday evenings, 8 p.m. Stay tuned to the Street 919 FM. May Almighty God Allah continue to bless you as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Simpsons Memorial Limited, number 63 Eastern Main Road, Laventille. Internationally accredited funeral directors and embalmers. A full-service funeral home serving families of Trinidad and Tobago and internationally since 1945. At Simpsons Memorial Limited, we serve with dignity in assisting families in honoring the memory of their loved ones. Our services include professional funeral and pre-planning, burials and cremation, custom-built and imported caskets, coffins and cremation trays, cemetery management, limousines, mourners cars, grief counseling, web streaming of funerals, fully air-conditioned chapel with live musical accompaniment, full global shipping and receiving of loved ones. We specialize in facial restorations. Call us anytime, day or night, at 623-8688. That number again is 623